Welcome to another episode of The Medicine Show. It is December now, which is winter here, and so it may seem like there wouldn't be much medicine left to harvest, but at least in this part of the world there is medicine that can be harvested all year. And not only are there things that can be harvested, it is the right time of year to harvest some things. Specifically, there are about 4 different categories of things that are really in season right now and where winter is the best time to harvest them. So fungi is one of those things. Not all fungi, but some of them are best harvested in the winter. Evergreens have some things, some evergreen medicines are best harvested this time of year. There are also persistent fruits that ripened earlier in the year, but are still on the plants that produce them now and can still be harvested for food and for medicine. And then there are winter annuals, which are plants that grow in the winter time when the trees don't have any leaves, and they grow in areas that might be shady other times of the year. And so this is the time when they put out their leafy growth, and then they do their flowering at the end of winter. So we're going to talk a little bit about a few examples of each of those things in this video. This Parmotrema lichen, which has anti-infective and antihistamine properties, can be found growing all year, but this time of year especially, you can often find it on wind-fallen sticks that have been blown down out of trees. And so it's an easy time to harvest it. This turkey tail fungus, Trametes versicolor, grows on rotting logs, and at least in my part of the world, you will often find it growing and putting on new growth this time of year, and it is a great herb for the immune system. Usnea is another lichen, which is a type of fungus with some algal cells and some fungal cells growing together. And like other lichens, it can be found all year, but sometimes it's easier to find when it's growing on lateral branches on deciduous trees when the leaves have fallen off of the trees and you can see where it is. Ground-growing lichens like this reindeer moss can also be sometimes accessed more easily this time of year, although with this one I would caution that this is a winter food for deer, so depending on what else is available, be careful about harvesting this. And in any case, be careful about harvesting it because it's very slow growing. But especially if it's in an area where the deer might also be harvesting it, you want to be very much mindful of that. Evergreens are another category that I talked about. And this specifically is white pine, which is one of the common evergreens in the forests of eastern North America. It has needles that are 5 needles to a bundle, and they have a pale stripe running the length of the needle. The needles, of course, are there all year, and they are edible as a medicine, like other resiny things. If you make a pine needle tea, it will break up congestion. Also is nutritive. This time of year, the sap is actually moving in the trees, so there will be sometimes sap leaking out through the bark like what you see here. And additionally, if you peel the bark off, it comes off of the wood very easily this time of year. So the sap is mostly used as a decongestant. You can also use it as a sort of a liquid bandage. You can put it over a cut or something like that to create a barrier over it. The inner bark is sort of an antiseptic, and it can be used as a bandage. You can put it over wounds and it will keep the wound from getting anything in it, and it will also sort of glue itself to the wound and create a sort of it can be used as a bandage. And I've used this on some pretty significant wounds in the past, including in one instance I've used it on a bullet wound from a .22 rifle, and it helps to close up the wound, but it also can be placed on it in a way that holds the wound open if there's
concern about there being material in the wound channel that needs to come out, as there was in that situation. And so it can be sort of placed on it like a tent and hold it open for a little while so that some of the stuff in it can work its way out before it's closed. If you harvest the sticks at this time of year and you burn them in a container, you can collect the black tar, the black pitch from the pine, which is also used as a topical treatment for itchy skin and dandruff and things like that. It's added in small amounts to soap for dandruff, and it can be used for itchy skin as well. Depending where you are, there may be this plant, there may be other plants, but there tend to be a lot of evergreens in most places, and so this is just an example of the sort of evergreen medicine that you might find this time of year.
This is the fruit pod from the sumac, the fruit cluster from the sumac bush or tree or whatever it is. And it is all these little red seeds. I sometimes call them berries, but they're not really soft like berries. And they're covered with this very sour red fuzz. And you can actually brew that into a sort of tea, and it's sour and sweet and has a lot of vitamin C and other good organic acids in it.
Sumac is also used as a spice in Middle Eastern cooking, and medicinally it is used for the kidneys. It's a diuretic. Basically, the acidity of it stimulates the kidneys, causes them to produce a lot more urine, and that can help to flush out kidney stones. It can help to rid the body of excess amounts of minerals and things like that.
This is Aliaria, or garlic mustard. It's widely regarded as a noxious weed. You'll often find it growing underneath trees in park-like areas because it grows like other winter annuals when there is sunlight that's not being shaded out by the trees, and then this continues to grow and flowers in the summertime. But you'll often find it, it'll be one of the only things around in the area this time of year. And you can see it's got deep veins, and then it's got this kind of toothed margin, and the overall shape is sort of like a semicircle that wraps around the stem at where the petiole attaches. And the flavor of it is just like what the name suggests. It's mustardy like other mustard greens, and then it has a garlicky flavor to it. And like any other mustard green, it is a little bit decongestant. It's got a lot of vitamins and minerals in it, and it's warming.
This is wild onion, also sometimes called wild garlic, Allium vineale. It is found all over North America and Europe. It's native to Europe and Asia, but it's been introduced over here, and it grows in the winter, and you can find it in the lawns and other places like that. It has small bulbs underground, and then the green part above ground. Has very similar medicinal properties to garlic that's grown in gardens, which is that it's antibacterial and decongestant and warming and spicy, lowers blood pressure, that sort of thing. And this is a very common one to find. It just looks kind of like grass, but instead of having flat blades, they're round and they smell like onion. Chickweed is another winter annual that you can find growing all winter long, and it blooms a little bit later in the winter. It is good to eat. It's nutritive, contains lots of minerals. It's also used to help promote skin healing, so people make salves out of it. People use it as a poultice. It's a very good common weed of disturbed ground that you can find all winter long. When I was living exclusively by foraging, this was a staple of my diet. Mistletoe is another example of sort of like a winter plant. It's on the trees all year, but you can see it very easily this time of year, and it's still green, and it blooms later in the winter as well. And it has some medicinal properties, but it's very poisonous too, so I won't get into those a whole lot. But this is, mostly known as a form of wintertime greenery.
That's all for this episode of The Medicine Show. Thanks for watching, and if you liked what you see, give us a like, follow, share, all that sort of thing, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.